Hey friends, and welcome back to Content Creation Challenge. I'm Elena Motonono, and I help online language teachers and coaches build and grow sustainable businesses on their own terms. I want to invite you right now into our community that is currently open for enrollment. It's called the Smart Teachers Library, where you can support each other on your journey to a sustainable business and get the tools and coaching and other type of support that you need and guidance as you're moving closer towards your goals. I am so excited to offer this opportunity to you because when I do any type of content, it's very difficult for me to connect with the people and truly help them succeed. I know that these videos and podcasts and other things that I put out there are helping you, but it's only when you're enrolling on the journey and actually making yourself vulnerable and accountable that you're going to make progress. And I'm sure as language learners and teachers, you know that. So there is a link in the description, and I want to invite you to join us. And that would be so amazing to have you in our community. All right, today I want to focus on two emotions that I usually experienced when I was posting, creating content, putting it on social media. Now, these emotions are completely different. One of them is unhelpful, and the other one is helpful. One of them is the one that I do not want to experience, and I choose not to experience that. And when it comes up, I know how to self-coach myself out of it. And so I'm going to share a little bit of that practice with you. And if you can doodle, that would be amazing. You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have to compare yourself to me or anybody else. I know it can be quite intimidating, but it is a great opportunity for you to pull everything you have in your head and put it on paper. Now, if you can't do that yet, or if you won't do that yet, that's okay. You can do journaling instead, and I will give you some tips and maybe prompts to help you journal through these emotions, because these emotions are so deeply ingrained in us. And if we continue wallowing in the unhelpful ones, then our content creation is not going to really reach the people and impact them the way we want it to impact them. So let's go to the paper. Okay. And hopefully we can get it to focus now. There you go. So the two emotions that I wanted to share with you, I'm going to draw one on this page and the other one on this page. And I will also show to you how this emotion, this one specific emotion that is unhelpful, is impacting my work and content creation as well, but also how it's generated, but how certain thoughts generate these emotions, because I believe that our thoughts about circumstances, not circumstances themselves, create emotions in us. And so it's our thoughts, it's our beliefs that sometimes feels like that's the only truth, but actually is not the case. So the emotion that I would like to explore is resentment. And resentment is what we feel when our content is not getting the results we want to. And it's quite common, and I hear it all the time. A teacher might say, well, people are here only to get my free content and nobody wants to pay me. And so that's resentment. Resentment means bitterness. You experience bitterness towards the people that are, for example, reading or watching your content for free, maybe your subscribers, or indignation. Then you start mocking people and saying, well, everybody wants me to do stuff for free, and whatever I do is not going to make a difference, and so forth. So all these thoughts then feed your resentment, these thoughts of people out there who are your enemies, who are not willing to pay you. And so you feel resentful. So I want to really, first of all, draw how I feel when I'm resentful. That's pursed lips. It's the best I can at the moment. And one of the things that happens is like I get my hands across my arms kind of thing. And I also have all these bitter thoughts that I create in my head. Okay. That's resentment. And the thoughts that I have that for me generate resentment, yours might be different, but you might explore. The thoughts that I have is nobody cares enough to pay me. Another one, everyone just wants stuff for free. Another thought, people don't appreciate what I do for them. Another thought, I'm so tired of creating stuff that people don't care about. And really, it's very interesting because some of these things that I think that create resentment and bitterness are not necessarily true, especially in the beginning. I remember I was blogging a lot in the beginning, and I felt like nobody was reading. There was some feedback, but I wanted it faster. And I remember after some time, maybe several months, somebody wrote to me finally and said, "Hey, I've been reading your blog and I've really been enjoying it." And I think I got really resentful. It's like, well, if you've been reading it, why have you not told me that you cared about it or you liked it? um resentment sometimes comes up for me, but not nearly as often anymore. It was very much present in the beginning, and I think just trying to deal with all these resentful thoughts was taking up so much energy. That's why I had a number of nervous breakdowns in the beginning, because I did not see the point of creating content, because I always felt like, I was creating content to get some kind of validation from people. And when they were not giving me this validation, I felt like it was all worthless. Um, and most of it were stories. Like, for example, like I told you, some people would say, well, I've been reading it, but they just never write. There's so many people that listen to my podcast, and they just don't, they're not in a place yet to respond, which I with the podcast that I created, I was already in a very different emotional state. So I never had a feeling of, oh, it's a waste of time or money. It's a big investment for me, doing a podcast, but I'm doing it to help people. And so that's where you will see the change in me. And actually, when you spend a lot of time brewing in these thoughts and fighting these thoughts and experiencing resentment and not knowing what to do, not allowing it, because sometimes, you will still have this feeling in you. The question is how are you going to get over it, because it's not really helpful for you to stay in that kind of space, resentment. And so, but at the time I felt like, well, that's what it was. I felt that it was the truth, I also felt like, well, the people in my audience don't even have, this much money to buy my book or something. And at the very beginning, it was really hurtful. And those recurring thoughts actually make you less willing to show up, and you are more reluctant to create content that actually can help people. And even if you do create, and then you try to sell, then you're not going to sell because all your creativity comes out of resentment. So really the initial thing is to try and deal with that. First of all, you allow this feeling, and by allowing this feeling, all you're doing is just sitting there with it and experiencing that in your body, kind of trying to check your body. How does that feel? Which, by the way, I wanted to put a couple of things here that I feel like red here, like the blood just rushes to my face when I'm resentful, and my lips are pursed. So that's how I know. And I just, uh, cross my arms and don't want to do much. And I keep going back to these thoughts, and that's how it just keeps like repeating itself, going from one thing to another. One thought after another goes back to resentment, and you stay in this space, and that's a really hard place to be. And that's how you get physical issues with your body. That's how you also experience burnout. So what is my alternative to this? And well, there are lots of different options that you can create, and a lot of different feelings and emotions that you can explore. I would like to look at one that is not exactly an emotion, but something that really helps me get over resentment, and that is serving, or it's the attitude of service. And really, it's about caring. It's about intentionally engaging. You are here to serve. And the phrase that really helps, and we're going to talk about the thoughts, is I am here to serve. And when I change my thought pattern from nobody cares about, I'm here to serve that one person that does care. I'm here to serve that one person that needs to hear what I have to say, and their life is going to be changed. And so when I show up to create content like this video or podcast, or when I write my newsletter, I sit there and I think about all the people that my newsletter is going to help. In the past, when I would write newsletters and I would get quote unquote no response, I would immediately go into stories about nobody cares, people only want this and all that, which was not really helpful to anybody. It was not helpful to me. Now I want to come to this, and instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to bother people, or which that creates a different emotion, not resentment. If you think to yourself, I'm going to bother people, you will most likely be anxious or afraid, which is also not helpful. But anyway, that's a different story for another day. But for me now, as I show up to create content, I want to show up as someone of service. And the way I want to picture this is, of course, I'm holding my heart. And being of service is not always easy. It's the choice that you make, because your brain initially goes into the emotions of resentment and the emotion of animosity, because kind of self-preservation strategy, if you're only worried about yourself and not others, that's kind of the natural state. It's more challenging to be caring and giving and loving, as we all know from experience. But I wanted to just talk about this idea of I'm here to serve and serving. It's really a powerful phrase. If you have not done this, I recommend you trying these options of thought. If it happens so that you're overpowered by the thoughts that generate resentment, you can choose different kinds of thoughts. And actually, in the Smart Teachers Library, during our group coaching sessions, I walk people through the process of choosing different thoughts, because sometimes it feels like, well, how do I choose a different thought? And there's a process that you can follow. And when there are other people doing it, at least you're not alone, and you can actually share your progress on the journey. And not only is it helpful for you in the long run, it's going to be helpful for your community as well. If you will be able to share with them how to change your unhealthy and unhelpful thoughts from them to go to something that's more sustainable. Because we talk a lot about sustainable work and sustainable teaching, sustainable business, but what about sustainable thinking? Because you may know that thinking can get really exhausting. So especially if it's this cycle. I'm here to serve one person. And a lot of times people say, well, I'm not here to serve, as long as there's just one person, if there's one person, what's the point? But there is a point in that, because that one person, and there are many one persons, but if you tell yourself, I'm showing up just for that one person, it takes off the pressure of, oh, well, what if, all these people will see, and it also prevents you from going on the perfectionism spin. I'm here to serve one person. I want to help people with, and then you have a very specific thing that you want to help people with. Another really, really helpful thought would be, I'm showing up so people's lives are transformed. Another one, but you need to work actually on these two. Do the work, as initially when teachers come from, working in the classroom, and all their experience has been is looking at textbooks and sharing the tips. This whole idea of transforming somebody's life is so foreign. So there has to be also some work that goes into an understanding of how your work actually transforms other people's lives. Okay, this work will change people's lives. When your life has been changed and you're bringing your own expertise and your own understanding to other people, you can bring these thoughts and sort of bring them back in your consciousness, and they will change the way you feel, and they will change as a result the actions that you take and the vibe that you have or you share with people. Okay, so I'm just going to put these thoughts in a different color so that it's color coded. And I like orange because orange is the color of life and energy. And I love to bring that energy into the work that I do. And unless you have that energy, when you are stepping out and showing up for your clients, it's going to be very difficult to move people to action, which is something we will be talking about in our next video. So thank you so much for tuning in. If this work really was helpful to you, I invite you to join us in the Smart Teachers Library and discover the things that you're still wanting to achieve and you have not had enough support to do that. I want to invite you to engage with us and enroll on the journey with us. And I hope that through the work of self-coaching and using the tools that we use in the library, that you will be able to make progress with the projects that you currently have in your brain, but actually bringing them to life is so, so exciting. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you a very good day.